Today, I'm in Hong Kong. I only got one night to be here, which means I have a limited amount of time to pack in some free attractions, taste some great food, look for places to shop, and find a party. We've got about 14 hours. So let's go.
É que ela me citou, tá se provocando, me chamando seu voo. Tô quase no aeroporto esperando o voo. Me ligando só pra pilotar esse convô. Férias em Hong Kong.
Hello, y'all. I'm Miss World, also known as Casey, and my goal is to show you how to travel around the world in style and on a budget. And staying on budget is super important. One way I stay on budget when I travel is by doing a ton of research to get a good idea of how much things cost. But you don't have to, because I'm here and I can tell you exactly how much it costs to have an epic night in Hong Kong. So let's get straight into it and let's get a look at my one-night itinerary for the great city of Hong Kong. My plane arrived at the Hong Kong International Airport around 9:30 p.m. and it took about an hour to get out of there. Full disclosure, the Hong Kong International Airport is enormous and it is confusing. I tend to get lost easily and I don't always stay on track of where I'm supposed to be, but I did just fine because I stopped to ask people. Even if I think I'm going the right way, I'll stop and ask again just to make sure. I've lost a lot of time being lost in airports when I could have just started asking people. Go ahead and ask people, because when you try to follow the signs, it can be easy to get lost. The arrows don't always really point to the direction you need. It's like an arrow pointing up at the ceiling. Does that mean it's upstairs? Is it straight ahead? Sometimes it seems like they almost want you to get lost at the airport. The point is, it's not difficult to get out of the airport, but there is a lot you have to do. I watched a bunch of YouTube videos about it, and literally every YouTuber I watched made it sound like you just roll off the plane and out the door, and that is not the case. I had to first go to the counter for the specific airline that I had used to get into Hong Kong. I then had to wait for a very overworked employee to find out what I needed, and then I had to wait while he rounded up a few other passengers who were also looking to get out of the Hong Kong airport. I then had to follow him through a staff exit into a whole special area where I was questioned and received a special piece of paper from an airport employee. Then I was just turned loose. They pointed in a direction and I just started walking. I followed the herd of people leaving the airport and very nearly missed the baggage drop-off area where you can leave your luggage, which I did because I wasn't trying to haul my carry-on through the streets of Hong Kong all night. I also could not find the subway station, which I had wanted to take because that is the most budget-friendly option. The only thing I could find was the taxi area outside the airport, so I got put into a taxi and headed straight to the Temple Street night market. It was right around 11 p.m. when I arrived, so the market was closing, but I did get a little look at it even if I didn't get to shop. I'm going to talk quite a bit more about shopping in Hong Kong and how that played out for me later on in the night in my next video about Hong Kong, where I go over what I did wrong and what I learned. Now, obviously I am fine, and yes, I did make it back home, but I'm not going to play with y'all. I did end up in a situation where that outcome did come into question. So we're going to get more into about how to get around Hong Kong and how you don't need to do what I did. So stay tuned to the channel for that. But I'm going off on a tangent. So let's recap on costs. Storing my big carry-on bag at the Hong Kong airport so I could walk around the city without it cost $14 per hour in Hong Kong dollars, and I only stored mine for about 7 hours, so that cost me $14.30 in USD. The taxi ride out to the Temple Street night market was about $45, and that is high, and that is why I wanted to take the subway instead. I did take the subway from the night market to Victoria Harbor. That's a free attraction, and I also walked along the harbor on the Avenue of Stars, which you can hear about in my video about the best free things to do at night in Hong Kong. The subway ride was about $1, but the subway stops running at night in Hong Kong. The trains stop running shortly after midnight. However, there are public buses at night that run through the night in select areas of the city, and you can use Uber, which is what I did for most of the night. It's super easy. I just used my regular Uber app that I use when I'm at home. However, this is a real don't do what I do situation because riding the Uber is way way more expensive than taking the bus. I did take the subway and I was going to ride the buses, but I started to get super nervous right after I left Victoria Harbor. I'm going to get more into it in my next video because I'm going to talk a lot about safety there. But to sum it up, this random guy started following me. Then he got right up on me and was talking to me, asking me a lot of questions. And to be fair, it could have been a perfectly innocent situation. He was probably wondering why this American woman was wandering around the city streets of Hong Kong alone at night. But, maybe he wasn't. And other women will understand that we are simply not safe being out in the world. Most of the time, nothing happens. But every single day somewhere to multiple women, something horrible happens. Every day, all around the world, something really awful is probably happening to a woman right now. That's the reality we live in as women, and it's hard to really explain it to people who are not women. But other women understand that we have to be on an extra level of alertness at all times. And when we're alone at night in a very large and very foreign city, you need to go ahead and turn that alertness up to 11. So here I am with some random guy keeping step with me as I'm walking alone in Hong Kong, trying to get to my next destination, and it totally weirded me out. So I got into an Uber and I rode in Ubers throughout the night. Anytime I wasn't walking, I was getting into an Uber, and at one point, an Uber may or may not have saved my life. It certainly saved me from a lot of anxiety because I was starting to be in fear of my life. But to be totally true with y'all, I'm not sure if my peace of mind was really worth the total price of my Ubers. We will get back to that. My next stop was Sun Foong Key, which I go into a lot of detail about in my Hong Kong food video. The tea and rice I got here was right at $14.30. I took an Uber to the Lan Kwa Fong area of Hong Kong where you can find the nightlife. I spent some time walking around here and checking out the sites nearby in the area, which was pretty fun. This is the lively area of Hong Kong, and this part of town doesn't seem to go to sleep. There were a lot of people, and it was a fun scene. I talk more about it in an entire video I did specifically about the nightlife and party scene in Hong Kong, so be sure to check that out. And it was free to walk around, which we always like. A bit of an adventure followed that, and I'll get into it in my next video, and eventually, I made my way to Sun Hing. This was my next eating spot, and this is a super famous spot to eat in Hong Kong that I highly recommend. I go into a lot of detail about it in my food video that I mentioned before, but I spent about $12 here total and completely feasted, so it was well worth it. Things went sort of awry at this point. I had another super scary encounter and more or less got lost, and it was a whole thing with the public bathrooms, and let's just say it's a story for another video. And it's actually all going to be in my next video about what I learned in Hong Kong and safety. So subscribe now so you can come back for that. So I also spent just over $20 on various items from Circle K and 7-Eleven through the night, just over $15 on McDonald's at the airport, $12.13 on a Labubu that we're also going to talk about in my next video. And no, I did not get a rare one, so please do not come to my house to try to look for it. I found out that some of y'all get real intense about these things. I spent $115 on Uber. I know, that's way too much. So $40 was to get back to the airport, so that was a big chunk. Another $20 or so was what I spent when I needed to get out of a situation that I did not need to be in. So I consider that to be well spent because I still don't know what would have happened if the Uber had not shown up right when it did. But still, that is way too much. All in all, my epic night in Hong Kong cost me $248.73. That's a lot of money, especially for a budget traveler, but my budget for the night was actually $250. I just thought I would be spending more of that on shopping because I did not know I would end up spending so much on Uber. But either way, I am claiming this as a victory because technically I'm completely on budget. You can spend less than I did on a night in Hong Kong. The food is cheap, walking is free, and there are buses that you can take instead of Uber. If I was a little braver, I would have walked more, but it's hard to put a price on peace of mind. Oh wait, it's not. I spent $115 on Uber. Now I remember. Yikes. But I did have an amazing and epic night in Hong Kong. There were some unexpected thrills. I secured a Labubu of my very own. I I ate some of the best food I've ever had. I saw the nightlife and some attractions, and it was absolutely incredible. I would go back, and I hope one day I get the chance. Meanwhile, thank you for watching, and thank you for taking the journey with me. I'll be back here next week, and I hope you will too. Now, Voyager, sail forth to seek and find.